Jules and I have been very scathing of Koeman. We gave him all the mitigating circumstances of all the nonsense. But this is a pretty good run. And I thought this Bilbao game, coming, when it did, 12 hours anyway, the next day after, or the day of, rather, the El Mundo revelations. They're facing Bilbao. They have the trauma of what Bilbao did to them with the comeback. I thought this was a gesture. This was, and I thought they put in a performance. They're still not perfect, right? But they played Messi up front. You had Griezmann actually stayed wide. Nice of him to do that. They had width. They look reasonably good. No?
Yeah.
Should I get too excited about this?
No. Look, I mean, I think...
the corollary to this, you prepare for this, I was going to ask you, so are they better than Real Madrid? It was going to be the next one.
Well, they're now level on points with Real Madrid, and their run at the moment is significantly better. They haven't been beaten in 90 minutes in this month. The only game they've lost, of course, was in extra time against Athletic in the Super Cup. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's 8. I think that's 5 wins in a row in La Liga.
Yeah.
I think as well, but I think beyond that, I mean, look, if you look at the list of games, the truth be told, none of these are games where you say you shouldn't win that. None of these are them winning a real statement game. They haven't beaten Madrid in this time. They haven't beaten Atletico. They haven't beaten
Sevilla.
I think they haven't beaten Sevilla. I need to check that now.
But they beat Athletic Bilbao and Marcelino, who beat them, and they did it. And they played well. They beat Athletic Bilbao in Bilbao on Marcelino's first game and only just, and at home at the Camp Nou. At home, come on, man! It's a freaking empty bowl of desperation and bitterness.
It's still a pitch that you're familiar with. It's still an environment you're familiar with, and so on. But what I'm saying is, I'm just trying to put this into context. But I think the more important thing, in a way, almost more than the results, is exactly as you started with. The fact that some of the pieces seem to fit. Bit by bit, things are starting to fall into place. As you say, we're seeing Griezmann occupy a much more rational space on the pitch. We're seeing a midfield where the spaces feel like they're occupied in a much more logical way. Until now, and we've talked about this before, it's looked like a back four plus Sergio Busquets, and then everybody else up front. And this absolutely enormous hole in the middle. That hole is being filled now. We're starting to see that hole being filled. We're starting to see Barcelona playing through the midfield rather than just running through the midfield. We're starting to see something that looks like it makes a certain degree of sense. And we've seen a really, really good month from Frankie de Jong. We saw, this weekend, obviously, Busquets didn't play because he was suspended, but we've seen Busquets starting to find his feet with people around him. We're seeing Griezmann, and I hate to use this phrase because it sounds like I'm basically saying he's useless with the ball, but we're seeing Griezmann getting out the way, which was a really important thing for him to do, and not just be standing on Messi's toes. And he's had a really good month. Again, I might get the stats wrong, but I think I'm right in saying that in the last 8 games, he's been directly involved in 9 goals. I think it's 5 goals and 4 assists since he was, in fact, it's even 5 games, since he was left out at Wesker anyway. Yeah. And so Dembele is stretching the game a little bit, giving them something a little bit more on the right-hand side. It feels now like Koeman is finding a structure and a team that works. Now, does that mean it's going to work all season? Probably not. Does it mean that they can compete for the league title? Well, they're 10 points behind Atletico, and Atleti have a game in hand, so probably not. And ask Koeman this, by the way. Koeman on Saturday morning was asked, and he said, right now, we're not in a position to win many things. We have to be realistic.
Yeah, well, it's nobody's going to dispute.
But I'm not sure that a Barca manager should say that, though. That's
no, but, I will say this, Sid, is... this is my take on Koeman. I don't think the guy is a brilliant coach or he's any kind of genius. But there was a moment when they started getting all the injuries to Piqué, to Ansu Fati, when, the splodge, I think you called it the 4-1 splodge formation, wasn't working and everything, where you felt, man, the wheels could come off. We could be looking at, no Champions League, which would make things that much worse with all the other stuff. Now, at least... you can look at this, and it is down to the individual quality of the players, but it looks like the players are playing for Koeman, and they're behind Koeman. They're putting an effort out on the pitch. And B, there is enough individual quality. They have one of the best keepers in the world. De Jong's been a monster. And then you have Messi. And all these things together, that is enough on a good day
I'm just
to beat
not
almost
sure
anybody.
how much is down to Koeman to have changed the formation.
No. What's down to Koeman is that the players haven't turned on him. The players haven't said, why are we listening to this weirdo? Everything's falling apart. Let's go bring some dude with a Catalan name and have him here and just write out the rest of the season.
Okay, but still, the main decision that was made was the change of formation, because the 4-2-3-1 that Koeman sworn by at the start of the season never really worked. And then as soon as they went back to a more rational 4-3-3 where people actually knew what they were doing, he helped everybody, including De Jong, including Messi.
And it's still
I'm just not sure how done on him that is.
When I watched the game, I saw Minguez. I admire Minguez. He's come out of nowhere, Sid, and he's played and contributed. But I don't think he's particularly good, and he's especially not particularly good when he's playing right back. Yeah. There was moments last night when I said, man, if that had been Sergio Roberto or Sergino Dest, this team would be so much better, because he's basically a center back and not a particularly good one playing right back. Am I wrong, Sid?
Yeah. I'll tell you who thinks you're right. Ramon Planes, the sporting director. There was a leak a couple of days ago of a report that he'd put together. And, of course, it was focused on Eric Garcia and the idea that, right, we do need to sign this guy. And the reason we need to sign this guy is because we can't trust Mingueza and we can't trust Umtiti. Now, we can't trust Umtiti, obviously, for physical reasons, because we've all seen that before the World Cup and, indeed, during the World Cup, he was brilliant. But his knee is a mess. Yeah. And the other player we can't trust was Mingueza. And I think you're fundamentally right, and I suspect that Planes is right, not least because I'm nobody to suggest that I understand football any better than Planes, that's for sure. But Mingueza is fundamentally what he is. Someone who's come from the B team, been forced to play because of injuries, and in fairness to him, has played really, really well within the context of what he is. But I don't think, at least yet, and maybe with time he'll develop into this player, that he's not as good as Araujo, for example, who really has impressed enormously. And as you say, and then on top of that, him playing at right back, it's not a natural role. And yet, here he was yesterday playing a very, very key part in Barcelona's second goal. The timing of the run was perfect, the positioning was perfect, the delivery was perfect. And so I think this is someone who deserves, at the very least, to be given the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, of course, I think it's natural that there's some doubt about whether he's genuinely Barcelona quality.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.